Now, since we started this class, we've spent some time looking at the dark side of tracking and cookies and what does that mean exactly and how does that impact you as the browser. Now we're going to take the other view of things and look at it from the other perspective of the marketer. So a lot of tracking can be really helpful to you. It can make actually the experience, even for the user, much better, much more enhanced. And it can give you as the marketer a lot more information about what's going on in the buyer journey, the behavior of the client, how to customize your content to them, and how to make the experience overall better for ultimately a higher conversion rate. But when you look at some of the videos we've looked at, we talk about some of the things we've talked about, it can seem a little more nefarious. I've used some sort of marketing automation at a very basic level since around 2005. It's not nearly as sophisticated as it is now. But at the time, I would have a lead come in to the system through a landing page, and it would go directly into Salesforce. And there would be a few things that would happen. So a person would come in, they would have some call to action, they would come in and request more information or a site visit or whatever that may look like. And it would automatically send them out an autoresponder and tell them what next steps look like. And then it would also turn around and send a email to the salesperson asking them to follow up and assign a task to them in Salesforce. And so they would go in, and once they completed that action of follow up, then it would set a series of emails to go out every 7 days for a month, and then it would go into a longer cycle. And that was all very mechanical. It was very not very intelligent with what it could do. It was on or off. It was binary in that way. And so the really and truly marketing automation has not changed so much. It's really about following a process of follow up from the moment that the lead comes in until they convert or even after that. And so what we're going to do now and just understand that HubSpot, you probably know this, but HubSpot, the company that is doing the certification and also that the CEOs and founders wrote the book, they are a marketing automation company. And they've borrowed a lot of ideas from the industry, and they've borrowed a lot of ideas that from great thinkers in marketing. I've talked about Seth Godin. They borrowed a lot of ideas from him. And so they've put all these ideas together that sort of create the philosophy and the theory of the software. And then there's a lot of application there as well that they bring into it. So the basic idea of marketing automation is there is a workflow. It complements the buyer journey as they go through. And there's tons of software out there. And I can certainly share some with you. But and I'll make a link available on our page talking about some of them. But there's a few that I'm really interested in. There's one called Lead-In that actually is now owned by HubSpot. It's a free software that you can plug into your website. There are a few more. I'll just run through them quickly just so you can maybe go back and look at it. Infusionsoft is a little more affordable, good for small businesses. Orbiter is a company that is a WordPress plugin. It's $100 a month. Acton is a little more sophisticated, and it gets a little bit pricey. It starts around $700 a month. HubSpot, obviously, and Pardot, and then there's a couple more, Eloqua, Marketo, and they get more sophisticated. So what I thought I would do is walk through some of the ways that we use our Pardot system. And I also want to show you and link to a deck for you to go and take a look at as well to try and visualize that. So I want to spend just a second walking through a deck that I saw at Inbound this year from a guy named Oliver Lopez. And I'll make that link available so you can go take a look at it. But just if you've never seen a workflow like this before, I just wanted you to see it. And what he does here is walk through a traditional sort of business approach where you start with prospectors, going out and getting a call list. If you've ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross, that's exactly what's happening here. You go through and you prospect, you pick people, then you create a sales lead that's going to go through and pick their, qualify who a good lead is, and then they're going to go through, and that salesperson is going to convert them into a customer. And that's the very traditional sort of funnel. Go from a lead to a prospect to a quote to a customer. So what we're talking about here is a little bit of a change, obviously. It's drawing in all of the sources into a visitor on the website, and that visitor will at some point become a marketing lead through some sort of conversion page, a landing page. And through that, then there will be the process of nurturing that lead and then taking them over to sales only once they're a sales qualified lead. And then from there, obviously, you'll continue to nurture them until they're ready to make a buying decision through sending out multiple emails, driving different offers to them based on their actions, and then ultimately get them to a customer conversion point. So what does an actual workflow look like? Well, I wanted to give you a real live example of something that we're doing within our Pardot system so you can kind of see how that actually works. So if you start, the lead is in there, however that happens, however they ended up in this particular marketing list, and the initial thing we'll do is to stall 3 days. So after they fill out this form or after they're added to the system, they'll pause for 3 days. And then an email will be sent to them, the first drip email. Pause another 3 days. And depending upon what's happened, if the email has not been clicked upon, then they'll go in and add to a new, if they have clicked on it, they'll go into a new list, which sort of sorts that out and says these are actually more of a warm lead or a hot lead, as we say here. And if they click again, then we'll jump down to step 7. If not, that will stop this little micro chain here. At the same time, they'll be, if they didn't click, they'll be added to a different type of list. And what we did here was a fork in the road to test different content to see which one would work. And if they went into that list, we would remove them from the list that they came in on, and we were running parallel tracks. Then we would send another email to them. And as you can see, it's a series of different tests that we're putting out there to see whether the prospect is engaged or not. And all the while, we're building up information about them and starting to learn about their behavior and ultimately qualifying them. Happens. Well, on the back side, all of this information, as we know, is being collected. And so I've just pulled up my prospect within Pardot and kind of see what's happened. So sorted from the most recent going backwards, you can go in and see that I visited 3 pages on the website. I can click in there, I can go and see exactly what did I click on. So I clicked on a blog link, that's a blog post, that's where I came in, then I went and viewed the main page, and then I went and looked specifically at that author. It also shows some of the different ways that I've gotten in there. So I came in through a Twitter link, I came in through a Google search link, a paid search link, and so you can see some of the different entry points that have been tracked to the particular cookie that I have. So you can also see that on that page there was a form. I didn't fill it out, so I didn't get any credit for it, but you can go back through and look at the emails that I've opened, links that I've clicked on in the emails, and each of these activities is tied into a score. So you can go down and look at on the left-hand side here, I'm trying to see where it is. On the left-hand side it says what my score is. What is it that drives that score is all made up of this traffic over here. So you can get pretty specific and drill down on that. You can look at video, for example. You can look at the videos that I've viewed. So right here, a closer look at the BPV Core Diversification Fund. You can see where the most traffic of this view has been. You can go down and look at who's viewed that page. But most importantly, on the page that I was just looking at for my behavior, you can see where I viewed it. If it'll cooperate here. Go back to video. You can see how long I viewed it, where my hot spots were on that view. and then how many points did I receive for them. So this becomes really, really valuable, because then I can say, based on my activities, I can assign certain tag behaviors. I can say, what are my interests? What are the videos that I click on? What funds am I interested in? And I can start to target the email based on that particular behavior. Another way to really build out some marketing automation is far simpler than any of this. And by using two tools, one called LeadIn and MailChimp as well, you can do some really powerful automation. LeadIn capturing all of the lead scoring, all of the information about the user, and then MailChimp is the follow-up and the automation fulfillment. So I would only introduce that to say MailChimp's something that a tool that we'll be talking about both now and in the next week, as well as we're talking about HTML email marketing. And what I would say about MailChimp is it has a lot of very powerful and robust built-in mechanics that allow it to do some automated follow-up. So it's not doing lead scoring, it's not doing trigger-based. When somebody hits a score of 150, it's going to send out an email. But it is doing a lot of action-based results. So if someone does one action, you can go in and follow up with an email, and it's all testing what the behavior on the email is. So I would just say, like, for example, I had a client that once wanted a boot camp. For 28 days, it wanted to send out an email to describe their certain program. Lead came in, like clockwork, every day afterwards, an email would go out. Like I said, in last class, we had MailChimp as part of our information that I send out. That's the way that I interact quite often. It tracks all of the behavior, tracks who clicks, and then it can set up follow-up actions after that. So marketing automation is obviously very dense. There's a lot to it. There's a lot that we will continue to cover. I just want to set the basis that is really the most effective way to take somebody that's come in, they filled out a lead action, they filled out a landing page, they've created their name in the system, and then marketing automations walks them through, does this qualification process. And sometimes you can set triggers in there to accelerate them and move them directly on to sales. But it's really important to understand the tool is just part of it. And this is what I spent years working on. Building the workflow is the most important thing. To really understand the behavior, where someone is, why they're acting, how you're going to follow up with them, and what the desired intent and result is a key to figuring out which system to use. You want to find a system that complements your process, not find a process to work with in a system. It's a really important point there. So just make sure that no matter what your particular product is, certainly marketing automation fits very well for business to business, but it can also work in a consumer process. So look at Amazon.com, for example. Very robust marketing automation system, understands everything you're doing, follows up with all of that. So just be cognizant of that as you're thinking about your project. Is there marketing automation play? If so, is there a system that you might recommend that they use at different cost levels? So that's it for marketing automation. I will see you next week. Have a fantastic week.